biggest story of the weekend, the biggest story of the week. That is Mac Jones's injury. It is a severe high ankle sprain, and apparently Jay Stu at Felgren Maz, he's hearing that the team and the player are kind of different opinions on how to handle this and move forward. I know Mike Giardi tweeted out this morning that Mac is going to get a second opinion. Your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. I think it's an ongoing situation. I think that what Mac had was a very severe injury. In a lot of ways, not having a fracture there, it can often be worse. It looked like, I mean, to me, to a layman, and, who's had some pretty severe ankle injuries in basketball in my career, it looked pretty bad. That he probably tore some ligaments and tendons pretty good. And look, he's a young kid who's going to have decisions to make. And I think if he would go in for surgery right now, I think we're looking at anywhere probably 2 to 4 weeks in terms of that. There's different procedures. I'm sure you can listen to people. There's this tightrope procedure, which started at Alabama with Tua and Jalen Hurts, where they go in and they actually drill into the bone and basically put zip ties in there. It doesn't always pay off in the long run. There's a lot of pluses and minuses to it. If you're Mac Jones and you're thinking about somebody going into your leg and drilling holes into it, is that something that you really want? Is coming back for, say, 4 games earlier? Then I think if he didn't get surgery, I think we're looking at a 6 to 8 week time frame. Is that really worth it for you at this stage in your career? And I also think we need to talk about, Nick, that I think that you have to look at the whole offseason in context for Mac Jones and what he's thinking right now. Right. Because, and you also have to look at some of the Patriots history, whether it's Rob Gronkowski with his elbow and all the injuries that he had, and, some of Tom Brady's decisions to get, do surgeries with his own guy, Neil Attershey, out in California instead of the Patriots guys. There have been guys who have made, I think Edelman did the same thing. There have been a lot of guys who have made decisions for themselves that look, it's not unique to the Patriots. I'm not trying to say that. There's a lot of distrust with players, with team medical personnel, because who are they looking out for? Are they looking out for the team or the player? And again, this isn't about the Patriots. This is about the NFL in general. But I do think in terms of Mac Jones, say you're Mac Jones, and you look at the team and you say, all right, are they doing what's in the best interest for me? Have they done that in terms of the coaching around me, the personnel? I think things hit ahead this weekend with the 2 picks. The third one, of course, there was a desperation play, but the 2 picks, I think that, and I'm sure we'll get into the plays themselves, but if you're Mac Jones, that adds to the level of distrust with what's going on around you. And now, you taking if you're looking at, all right, so Josh McDaniels leaves, you give me Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick. You're not playing Kendrick Bourne. You're playing little Jordan Humphrey. I don't like the play calling. I don't like the game planning. I don't like, what Devontae Parker did in the end zone. And now, after all that, I'm supposed to trust you on making the best medical decisions for me. Hang on a second. I think I'm going to go get a second, maybe a third opinion so I can be more informed, because you know what? I don't think listening to you guys and trusting you guys is actually working out for me. So I'm going to look out for myself. And I think that's where Mac Jones is at this point.
This is why building a relationship and a partnership with a young quarterback is the most critical thing you have to do in the NFL. And we can sit back and we can look at the last few months, and you and I, this is not hindsight 2020. Mm-hmm. You and I talked about this plenty of times in the offseason, Greg, the idea of, are you setting up Mac Jones to succeed or fail? And when you look across the NFL, it's fascinating to see how different regimes and different franchises handle their young quarterbacks. You look at Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence playing much better this year, right? Better coaching staff around him than last year, some better talent around him. Doug Peterson, who is an experienced offensive play caller, who's being involved with the offense and being the guy calling the shots there down in Jacksonville now after Urban Meyer's disaster. And Jacksonville looks like they've taken a step forward, and Trevor Lawrence is playing much better football. You look at Justin Fields, some questions about his progression. He's going through his second coach already, his second play caller already. The fact that Chicago is running the football a ton and not necessarily putting much in the hands of Justin Fields, and he's not playing that well. Is that on him? Is that on the team? Trey Lance was struggling before he got his injury. Kyle Shanahan went into game 2 of this season, 15 play calls before the Trey Lance injury, and 12 of those play calls were runs, 3 of them passes. Did not look like the coach actually trusted or believed in the quarterback that he had out there. How do you handle, you have talent, that's one thing, but how do you handle that talent? And Mac might be looking around saying, I don't quite trust this system right now. I don't know if that's it, but I'm sure he's not super pumped about how this thing has gone here this season. And I'm sure he wasn't thrilled no matter what he said during the offseason. And now, if you start to have those doubts creep in and then you start talking about your physical well-being, that's an even bigger question. And, when you look at this team without Mac Jones, because we'll get into some of the specifics you just mentioned a moment ago. When you look at Mac Jones being out, let's say he's out for the next 4 games, Greg. Does this team have a chance to win some games here? And what should we expect as far as performance goes with Brian Hoyer instead of Mac being the quarterback?
Okay. On Brian Hoyer, here are the positives and negatives. The positives are he's extremely experienced, in various schemes, whatever the Patriots going to call. He knows how to run it. He knows how to get in and out of plays. He knows how to lead the group. That's pretty seamless. I do think that he has a really good arm. I think he's always had a really good arm. He throws a pretty good deep ball, so they can continue a lot of that stuff if the defense presents that. I think that, watching this summer when Brian Hoyer got chances, and he didn't get a ton of chances because I think this summer was more about getting Mac acclimated to the new offense and then also seeing what Bailey Zappi had. I mean, they know what they have in Brian Hoyer. They didn't need to see a lot. But when he did rep, whether it was in the preseason games or in practice, I thought Brian had an excellent summer. I mean, there were a lot of days where you're like, he's running this offense better than Mac is in terms of timing, getting the ball out, being more decisive, snaps on throws, things like that. So, those are the positives with Brian, and I've always been a Brian Hoyer fan. But there are big negatives with Brian Hoyer. And the last time he started a game, the Chiefs, when Cam Newton was out with COVID in 2020, they had a chance to upset the Chiefs in Kansas City. And largely because Brian Hoyer completely melted down before the end of the first half, that cost them a chance to do that. And that's what you get with Brian Hoyer. The big minuses are when it comes to crunch time, when it comes to pressure and pressure situations, he doesn't have the best track record. And, also he does this thing where he pats the ball before he throws. And if everything's not in sync, players can jump his passes and pick them off, because there will be stretches where he looks brilliant, but there will be stretches where you're like, holy cow, I don't know how they're going to move the ball. And so there's big pluses and minuses. But in terms of the team, look, I don't think much should change. I mean, it's not like I always thought that we were going to start 1-3. In the Packers game, okay, give it to the Packers. But then, yes, is Detroit spunkier? Yeah. And a lot of the teams that coming up do they look a little bit better and competent? Sure. But the Patriots should win. They need to win the next 4 games after starting 1-3. They should do that to sort of set themselves up. And not having Mac Jones shouldn't make, if you have a good team, and you have good coaching, the Patriots should be able to do it. They did it without Tom Brady in 2008. There's no excuse for them not to play winning football now that Mac Jones is out. And if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to make excuses for Bill Belichick. He put himself in this situation. They need to play winning football. And to me, I think the Detroit game is huge. The Matt Patricia Bowl is basically going to be the season. If they start 1-3, that they have to win that game at home against Patricia's former team, against Jared Goff and everything. And they're probably not going to have Swift, their best running back. who's going to be out. The Patriots have to win that game. If they don't win that game, look out.
You know, when you look at the schedule, and the coaching has me shook most of all, of course, on the offensive side. And we'll get deeper into that when we talk about the Ravens game. But they have a legitimate shot, even with Brian Hoyer, to win 3 out of the next 5, 4 out of the next 5. And I think you and I agree the Packers game doesn't look great for them. You've got to travel to Lambeau. You're without Mac. You're going against Aaron Rodgers. Packers offense hasn't been spectacular, but their defense is good. Aaron Jones is tough. And, of course, you've got Aaron Rodgers. But just look at the quarterbacks. You know, after next week's game, right, after you play the Packers in Green Bay, yeah, you have Brian Hoyer, but you're going against Jared Goff. Jared Goff is no great shakes. You have Hoyer, but you're going against Jacoby Brissett and the Browns. You have Hoyer, but you're going against Justin Fields. And I just told you the Bears offense has been a disaster so far this season, much worse than the Patriots. You've got Hoyer, but you might be going against, if you have Hoyer in this game, you're going against Zach Wilson and the Jets. Zach Wilson coming off of his own injury. So it's not like you're going against a murderer's row of quarterbacks. If you were going to lose Mac Jones for a 4 or 5 game period, Greg, the Patriots got incredibly lucky because this is actually the exact spot that you can survive without him because of these games that you've gotten, the quarterbacks that you're facing. Play defense, run the football, limit your mistakes, and you've got a chance.